Alright, what's up, folks? Where are we gonna go with this? What are we gonna... Alright, there's your intro. This is Frank the guitar right here. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, and this is In The Image Clothing Company Podcast. Welcome back, or welcome to your first time. We're hanging out, we're having discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what we do here at the podcast side of things. But in the Image Clothing Company as a whole, we address the human body, come at it from the skeletal system. The human body is not about the fat content, because at different times in our lives we have different amounts of that, and it's not about the muscle mass, because that's the same case with that. So the body is about its natural structural foundation, just as within the gospel of Jesus Christ, we build our foundation on Jesus the Christ. Within the human body, we need to have a solid foundation, which is our skeletal system's natural structure. And it only does what it does. I'm going to take this outer shirt off, and so I'm going to be doing that as I'm discussing what I am. I've got a shirt on underneath, just, yeah, but the body only works how it works, and it only does what it does. Hold on. And so clothing can potentially very, very much alter and inhibit the body's natural workings and try to have it work in a way that it doesn't. Now, this is actually episode 55 of In The Image Clothing Company Podcast, and this is titled Designed to Work. So that's going to go along with exactly what I'm saying there, and we'll get into all the other things that we do within this episode here of In The Image Clothing Company Podcast. But first, I'll do a little rundown on what the company is and where clothing needs to sit on human beings, and then we'll just get into this beautiful discussion that we will have, which is, I call it a discussion, but really it's just me speaking. So here we go. In The Image Clothing Company has three sides to it. This side here, as I mentioned, discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ is what we have here. We also have what I call the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, where we discuss what this podcast will actually have a lot within, which is the anatomy of the human body and what clothing is doing to that, right? Keeping clothing centered. We show modifications to do there within clothing you already have. And then we also have In The Image Clothing Company music, where we make music. I personally do, with Frank the guitar at this current time. And I show setups of guitars up until this point, but whatever instruments we do get into, and how to just allow our bodies to mesh with the instrument we're playing, and the positioning of sitting and standing when it comes to singing. And we get into all that kind of stuff, plus whatever else we do over there. So now, since we are a clothing company, since the main focus, other than the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is the truth of all things, don't believe me, but it is, and we'll get into some of that within this episode here as well. But in the Image Clothing Company podcast, we really talk about clothing because it's in our name and the reasons that we do. So we can get into these chronic patternings across the globe, and it's the same, whether you're here in the United States of America, if you're over in India, if you're in Africa, if you're in some part of Europe that's different, if whatever, right? No matter where you are on the earth, I mean, it could be anywhere that I didn't mention. We get into these same patternings because clothing designs are the same or very, very similar. And even if they're quite different, still just oversized clothing will fall toward one side of our bodies, putting that side of the body into external rotation, pulling it away from its center line, because we have one. No belief, no opinion, no yoga class, but there's a spine, there's a sternum, and there's a nose. We do have a center to the human body because we live on an earth with gravity, and it just pulls us straight down from the middle of our human being. Now, yes, so because of all those things and many more and the things that we discuss, clothing needs to just sit on a human being the way that it needs to, or else the body will not be able to function the only way it's designed to work, which is the title of this here episode of In The Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 55. So, yes, pants that we wear, anything that we wear on the lower part of our body, right, pants type of clothing, they need to be all the way up off of our hips. Higher in the front than in the rear with the waistband, because that way the core of our bodies, the center of our being that stabilizes our bodies from there up and from there down, that stabilizes our breath, all the things that it does, it would always naturally be and needs to continue to stay activated. Far-fetched to some human beings in 2025 because people do wear clothing that is so altering their bodies in all ways that it is that they don't have an activated core and their body is in a suffering state of just trying to operate when it cannot in that state. So tops that we wear, the seams on top of our shoulders need to sit evenly behind these two little bones that are up here on the edges of our shoulders, because that's the other end of our collarbones. And that allows our shoulders to be where they'd naturally be in their neutral position behind the body. And for the edge seams of the shoulders, ideally just right at the very edges, because that is where the shoulder hinges, pivots, rotates, moves, and does its thing. In that ball and socket joint that is here, okay? Now, cool. In the Image Clothing Company has two things that we state as additional prerequisites to just having clothing sit where it needs to. The first one is our shoelace technique, really just the shoelace technique that we use. We do not own a technique of shoelacing, but it's the only technique that is shaped the way that the human foot is actually shaped, and with that we tie our shoes evenly over toward the inside to the center of the body to allow an even foundation from that point traveling up. Secondly, we remove all tags from anywhere within clothing, even within shoes. Anywhere a tag is placed, it's causing a gap, it's a different material or just a different texture, not allowing the musculature of the body to activate against it. It's causing a physical gap if there is actual size to the tag, and it's changing the way that the skeletal system sits in the only way that it actually does, right? So then the body gets very, very much damaged just from small things like that. So let's get into this. The reason I titled this what I did, and one of the main things we're going to talk about within this, is our human bodies, our human flesh. This thing here, if you can hear that in audio only form, that's just my hands touching together, my hand touching its own self, my thumb touching the fingers, and the other hand, thumb touching the fingers. And that's one of those things, is in 2025, it's very uncommon for people to be able to touch their own fingers to their own thumb. Now, in a way that it's actually happening. A lot of times their shoulder will have to be dropped very much excessively in order to do that. If you elevate your shoulder to a position where it's actually going to work with that neutral wrist, a lot of times it's very hard for people to get the pads of their fingers where the fingerprints actually are, not the very tips of the fingers, but as the human being's designed to operate, the pads, it's hard for people to actually touch their fingers together. Now, there's many things that is so inhibited in people nowadays. Internal rotation is the thing that we focus the most on. Internal rotation and a posterior tuck of the pelvis. Those are the two things that In The Image Clothing Company really, really focuses on within the human body, because those are the two things that are lacking the most as far as like the major things. You're not going to have smaller parts of your body be out of alignment if the main things are in their neutral position, because really it's those small parts of the body that then travel through the rest of the body, altering the main things like the pelvis and the rotations of things like the upper legs and the arms that come up into the shoulder socket. So I always say the hand is essentially the shoulders, the feet are essentially the hips, and anything that the hand is doing so commonly misaligned will alter your shoulder. If your shoulder is altered, it travels through your spine to your hips. Your hips are then altered, that travels down to your feet. But I don't know if you can hear that, but there's some noise outside that I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's fine for there to be noise, I just don't know what that sound was. But similarly, if we tie our shoes in ways that are altering our feet, but really just one of them mostly, then that's going to travel up to our hips, traveling from there to through our spine to the shoulder, traveling out to our hand. So our hand can be entirely altered from our shoe or just our foot, but really it's an external source, right? Just as our hand can be altered by using something externally that can then alter all the way down to the feet. So designed to work is what we are. The human being is placed onto this earth. And before I get into anything about your body should just do things, obviously, at least to me it's obvious, okay, I want to make that very clear. I am fully aware And since the very founding of the Image Clothing Company, we have talked about these things because, yes, of course, there are human beings who are born very, very, very different looking, structured, shaped, sized than most all other humans. We have birth defects, we have deformities, we have things that happen throughout our lives, major injuries or accidents, incidences that happen. Then we sometimes have amputations or surgeries that really alter the like baseline human being, if you will, okay? And of course, times and places, I'm not trying to shame anybody because of something that they have done or had done to them that was not up to them or was because of what they did, but it was a mistake or whatever, even if it was an intentional thing, it doesn't matter. Things happen. But, I mean, there is a foundational human structure, right? We are all universally designed, as our name says, in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. That is where our company name comes from. That's why we are In The Image Clothing Company, all one word. But there's definitely exceptions, and there's definitely uniqueness that happen to people. I mean, personally, just for a little bit of context, I have a heart defect that I had since I was born, right? I was born with a hole in my heart. I had other conditions that came along with that. I've had complications, surgeries, things that have come from that. So I understand, right? I mean, we're not all just born exactly like cookie cutter, here's a human being, and this is exactly how the skeletal system is structured for every being to live. No, that is not the case. But I'm not going to sit here and try to like cater to every single person's individual situation that I could possibly think up or research or understand, and then like not be able to just have a broad spread, hey, this is how the human body is designed to work, okay? So that's a little bit of context before I get into anything else within this, but yes, okay, great, good, nice. So the body only does what it does, okay? And I talk about that all the time. I say, I mean, there's nothing about us with the shoelace technique that we use, right? It's not like we're just so correct about something. We think that we're so entitled to having something that we think is what other people should do. But the foot only is shaped how it is, okay? The shoulders only connect into the body the way that they do. The hips only do what they do. And then you've got more simple joints within the body, right? Elbows and knees are very close to simple hinges. I mean, yes, the forearm has rotations, and yes, the knee has what's called a screw-home mechanism with some rotation at the end range of motion. But you have things like the ankles, the wrists, the hips, and the shoulders that have a lot of motion in them and a lot of things that they can do. And they only do that the way that they do coming from a neutral, okay? Everything within the body, and I've talked about this within the podcast as well, not only on like the main company side of the Image Clothing Company, everything has to stem from its neutral position. The neutral wrist is straight out from the pinky. That neutral ankle and foot is, you follow that little slight outward curvature of the lower leg down, and there's that nice neutral ankle with a gripped arch inward. The pelvis, that's what I was talking about with the posterior tuck of the pelvis. If you look at the spine and you want just a very slight natural curvature in it, but you want it to be very vertical to a degree, right? There is that natural curvature that's just there, but when you're standing or vertical, and so in order to have that happen, the pelvis needs to kind of tuck underneath us posteriorly. And that's why I say how clothing needs to fit at the beginning of the episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast in order to allow that to happen. Now, so there's things like that within the body that just have a neutral, meaning every single thing that has any kind of motion has a neutral that it comes back to. So we're designed to do that. We're designed to work out of our neutral position, out of our natural workings, out of a center line that then can move from side to side. But it has to have a center to move to both sides, or else you're always only moving to one side and then kind of trying to get to the other, and it's almost never happening, which is the left, right? The right side is the side that we're always stuck on as human beings. So, of the body. Now, we're designed to work. So, here's one thing that's really silly, is human beings never in the past even had an opportunity or any kind of reason to stay stationary the way that we do nowadays. Without technology, there'd be no reason to sit in a chair and not move. You can be sitting in a chair knitting, or you can be sitting in a chair doing certain things like that, sewing or whatever, that doesn't cause the rest of your body to do much besides your arms or your hands. But within 2025 and the past years leading up until now, we can sit in a chair and move nothing but our thumb on our technological devices. And we can sit in a chair and stare at a TV and not move our bodies at all, but just sit there and just do that, meaning nothing. And it doesn't make any sense. If you were to turn off that television and just sit in that exact same location as you were with it turned on, you'd realize how weird it is. If you were to turn off your cell phone while you are sitting there with it in your hand and doing things on it, you would realize how weird it is. Do the exact same thing, but without the technology turned on, but like as far as the physical movements, which aren't there, and you'd realize that no human being would ever in the past have any reason to sit that stationary. Now, same thing with even jobs, 2 degrees, where we're sitting at jobs doing things nowadays or standing in a pretty stationary position. That's something that would never happen in the past. It's not a natural thing at all, nor will it ever be. We cannot make it natural. We can't change what is or isn't natural. Our God chooses those things, and he chose that at the very beginning, and it doesn't change. Ever. He doesn't. So, now, the body's just designed to work, but living in a 2025, and again, past years and decades leading up until now, people are so out of touch with just their body doing what it's supposed to that they think they need to do things with it. People think they need to go on runs. People think they need to go to the gym. And people think that they need to do stretches and mobility work when they haven't done anything to damage their body previous besides not use it. The body needs to be used and worked and run. It's like a truck. You leave the truck outside sitting there not running, the battery will die and the truck will not operate. Certain parts of it inside will seize up if it's not moving. You get rust on certain parts because they're able to get moisture on them and not be able to have the free motion and movement that they're designed to do. A truck's designed to drive, not sit on the side of the street. A human body is designed to walk and to move around through its environment. It's not designed to sit in a couch or a chair. Well, not even at that height either, and we talk about that. But it's not designed to do these weird positions that we do as human beings nowadays. It's not designed to sleep with a pillow under its head because that's placing the spine entirely out of its only neutral position. So the body's just designed to work, but it's only designed to do what it's going to do. Now, we are doing a lot of things nowadays in 2025 to cause the body to do things that it just doesn't do. And people like to believe that they can make their bodies do whatever they want, and they can tell their bodies how to be, and they can overcome their physical being with the power of their mind, and that is all entirely false. I don't mean to step on anybody's beliefs or hopes, but that is entirely false. The body is a mechanical machine that only has certain functions that it does. And so people are there doing crazy things, trying to make it do things that it just does not, nor will never do, nor will ever. The body won't ever do anything that it's not designed to. That's all I'm saying. So the biggest and easiest and really only actually way to understand what that is finding out what the neutral parts of the body are. Now, we need to have our shoulder seams of our shoulders in a position where we can actually have our shoulders elevated, because you can't fully extend your elbow unless you elevate your shoulder. And both of those things are prerequisites to allow a neutral wrist and not have pain in your hands and fingers. Now, you will never elevate your shoulders if your shoes are laced in ways that are collapsing your naturally open and gripped arches within the feet. There's 27 bones within the feet. There's 26 in the hand and 27 in the foot, or the other way around. The hands and feet are extremely similar in their operations, and things that are happening to your feet are happening to your hands. People don't normally have open palms, as you can see mine here if you're watching this in visual. If you're an audio only of this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, the palm of the hand really should be very open, as if you could fit a small little ball in the palm of your hand. And in 2025, as I've discussed many times, people's hands start to operate as though they're flat, and that is not how the human hand is. But You can do all the work to your hands that you would like to try to get them to be open palmed as they naturally would be. But if your feet are within lacing techniques that are squishing down the arches of your feet and closing off those open gripped arches, you will never have naturally working hands. The body only works how it does, it only works as a whole, and it's designed to work. But it's not designed to be placed inside a man-made shape of material with a rope weaved and cinched and tied in ways that don't align with the only operation of the neutral foot and ankle. There you go, right? But the body's designed to work. I think the biggest thing is, well, not as if like I have like a wrap up already. That's not what I meant. I think one of the big things I'm trying to hit is what I'm saying is, like I said, people try to go on runs and people try to go to the gym and people try to do exercise to get their body to do things. And it's just designed to do what it's going to do. And so I've stated this many times within content for In the Image Clothing Company, but when I was a teenager, I would work out, okay? And I would understand all what they were trying to tell you about time under tension and about full ranges of motion and about rest periods and about sets and reps and numbers and weights and increasing things and whatever you want to get into, and amounts of protein versus carbohydrates, and how to get your quote unquote macros, whatever they want to actually try to make you think that that is, right? I understood those things in the way that they would discuss them within those kind of communities, but that stuff is all just absolutely just, I said just twice because it's just terrible. That's the third time. It's an illusion. The body's designed to work, but you're within stretchy clothing. You're within shoes and all things that come with shoes that are just altering your feet, which is the foundation of your whole body. I mean, the body really is the feet when it comes down to it. Your feet sense things second most to your hands and lips, actually, and your eyes, right? I mean, we go through the earth that we do, and our feet tell us more in a lot of ways than our eyes do, even if we can see very well, okay? And we put our feet inside of things that are not how they operate. So many little nerve endings within our feet, and they can tell us so much. And they regulate a lot of things within the body, and they determine things from there up through the entire body, how it's going to operate, the structural position of it, and also like nervous system wise things, right? I mean, a lot of times when people get injured or when they get sick, they'll put things on their feet like onions or herbs of some kind, right? Natural remedies, and it'll soak through the feet and heal the inside of the body. The feet are huge when it comes to the body's only functions. The body only does what it does. I like to say natural, but it's not an option, right? The body just only works how it's naturally designed to work. It's like a truck. It only works if it runs on the fuel that the truck takes to run, or else it won't. And that's the human body placed into shoes that are incorrect, or stretchy clothing, or oversized clothing, or waistlines in incorrect angles, or whatever it could be, right? That's not the way the body works. Now, like I was saying when I said the biggest thing, and then I kind of got caught on that because that's not quite, I'm not like wrapping it up as if that's the only point within this. But one of the absolute biggest things is just, hey, your body is supposed to work unless you have your own very specific things. The body should work. Now, it has to, though. It has to be able to. Like the example of the truck. I mean, people are treating their bodies like they're treating their truck. You can't leave your truck outside in the winter in the state of Utah, the United States of America, where I currently live, when we have below freezing temperatures, and have the truck sit there for 2 weeks stationary and then expect to be able to just get inside the truck and start it up and drive. You might get inside the truck and it won't start. Highly probable. That's the human body. You can't just say, oh, well, Evan Strong from In the Image Clothing Company, the founder of that thing that he thinks he knows what he's talking about, said that the human body should just work. But after I've spent 3 weeks on this couch, does that mean I should just go be able to climb a mountain? Well, your body can, if it's allowed to just do what it's supposed to. But the thing is, the body should always, through the entirety of it, stay activated. As I say with the core, And as I say, with it being an illusion, the whole workout community and stuff, it really actually is. And as time goes on, we really are in like an awakening as far as understanding goes across the whole globe right now in this time period. And as time goes on, the next few years and things, I think a lot of people will be really more understanding of this. But it's so silly. I mean, people are just absolutely wasting their time doing exercises and workouts and stretches, mobility things, diets, special foods they're importing from different parts of the earth that their body would never otherwise eat. And it's only getting anything from it for the amount of time that it's in your body. I mean, you digest the food and it comes out of you. It's quite strange how far off we are with things. And I was to degrees as well, right? I'm not condemning, I'm just out here speaking truth so that we can not waste our time and resources doing these silly things like I was when I was a teenager, going to the gym hours a day for 3 days a week is what I was doing. And yes, I saw results in muscle mass get increased within my body, but that didn't help my body function better. Sure, I had more muscle mass, but that didn't do anything for me, actually. If anything, it inhibits the body, because this is what I want to show. Just how obvious it is when we see it. Again, I didn't at one point, and at most of my life until very recent. The body has a foundation. It has a neutral, it has a normal of everything. And you can do things to what you think is aiding that normal or advancing, enhancing, growing that normal, or you can do things to go the other end and, quote unquote, damage that normal. But it will always come back to its normal. You can do workouts all you want, but once you stop, your body goes back to its normal for that time period. You can starve yourself or very close to it and then start to eat a normal amount again, and your body goes back to its normal. You can gorge yourself with food and get excessively fat, meaning just an excessive amount of body fat on your body, and then go back to eating a normal amount of food, and your body will go back to its normal. The body only has a normal. The body's designed to do the only thing that it does. So, like all these fitness people that are pushing all these workouts and diets and things, and make sure that you just stay up with your workouts, or else what? Or else your body goes back to its normal, because that's the actual truth. That's what does happen. So the body just has a normal, and it does, right? Neutral and normal are, neutral and natural are synonyms within the human body. It has a natural, has a normal, has a neutral. It's like, it's like what I talked about with the wrist, right? I mean, the wrist has a neutral. This is its normal. And you can do all you want to train it to go this way, right? But if you stop training that, it's going to go back to, unless there's something inhibiting it, its neutral position. And you can do all you want to train your wrist to go this way. But if you stop doing that, as long as there's nothing inhibiting it, it'll just go back to its neutral position, right? There's ways that it can go, but it always comes back home, right? The body is designed to work. So we can't get it to do anything else besides what it's designed to do. We are not the designers of our bodies. And so that's why I say, and I've said since the very start, and I don't care in the absolute slightest how much people try to get offended about this or whatever, but implants within your body, artificial stuff, things like that human beings try to do to themselves to enhance like the look of their bodies or the functionality of things. Reconstruction within certain parts of your body that isn't actually reconstruction, but really you're just altering it, like arch reconstruction, when really you've just been wearing terrible shoes and your feet just need time to get back to their only normal, right? All those things are just absolutely unnatural, absolutely damaging to your body. People put implants in their bodies for cosmetic reasons, most commonly nowadays, and no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. If that offends you, great. Your body only works how it does, and it's designed by somebody who is not you, so you cannot alter it without many complications happening. So, anyway, the body's designed to work. It's silly for us to try to get something we didn't design to do something we want it to do. And I love that whole illusion. And well, I mean, in the Image Clothing Company, as I say, is going to be a lifelong thing for Mr. Evan Strong, which is who I am, the founder. It's awesome to see the illusion of workouts, the illusion of runs, the illusion of exercise. Because in the past, your body would just do what it does because you had to. Nowadays, we get to sit on our couches and people deliver things to our doorstep. In the past, if you didn't go out there and get your own food, you'd be dead. And that's just how it was. And in many parts of the world, that's how it still is, but especially first world United States of America. We have what people call a luxury, but really it's very damaging. We have this ability to just have things delivered to us in an instant. And we have the ability to have like at-home schooling. Homeschooling your kids or whatever, that's a different thing. But as far as like online school nowadays, you can sit at your house and stare into a piece of plastic or glass and it's portraying an image of something that you think is education. Okay, I'm sounding so mean, but I don't care. It needs to be heard correct, but it's just the truth. Like I say, with these things that I talk about, they'll be so different before we can blink an eye. And it's just crazy how blinded we get by the world, right? And we're come here to overcome the world. So it's crazy. It's actually crazy. The world is crazy, but that is the point. And it was prophesied to be that way and set up that way since the very start of all things. So, yeah, so people will sit there, they'll be at a place of employment, sitting in a chair the human body doesn't actually do for X amount of time in a day, or sitting in what they call a classroom and getting what they call education. And I sound so mean. I don't care. And then they'll complain that their human flesh doesn't operate the only way that it was designed to do anything, the only way that it will ever do anything, because we cannot alter it. Yes, the body does not sit in chairs, as I've discussed before. The hamstring, which is those big muscles on the rear of the upper leg, those are very large muscles, and they have to just work. And when you're sitting at a chair height, what we think of as a modern 2025 chair height, you're sitting on that muscle, cutting it in half, and it deactivates that very large muscle. But it's become so common for human beings in modern day to sit at that height. I talk about that all the time, but in the past, you wouldn't do that because you know that you need your body to function, and it's not going to if you cut off the muscle, literally cut it in half with something because you've placed your entire body weight on it. It just wouldn't happen. You'd sit on a very low thing in the past, and then we decided chairs should be the height that they are nowadays. I didn't decide that, but one of us human beings did. And there we go. So the whole thing is, with the body being designed to work, again, I'm not just wrapping it up, but it only does what it does, and it doesn't do the things we do in 2025. It doesn't hold a cell phone unless it's very, very intentionally shaped and sized and very much smaller than any of the ones that have been in the past, many years. The human body doesn't actually operate a vehicle. It really doesn't. I mean, the human body only does what it does. It's a mechanical machine, and it's designed to do what it is designed to do. It's designed to sit in very low positions and have deep low squats using full ranges of motion of the knee. Otherwise, those end ranges of motion, those deeper ranges, are just going to stiffen up because they're not even being used, and they're there to be used. The human body isn't designed to have its pelvis out of its neutral position except for very specific times when you're actually doing things with the pelvis in a position where you need to be able to really reach or something. And wearing pant waistlines that are just causing your pelvis to be out of its only neutral, meaning only operable position where the muscles are actually activating and the bones and joints are actually meshing the way that they're designed to, that state is happening. People are in that unnatural state where the body isn't actually even working. It's just being forced through its existence for hours a day, 10, 14, 16 hours a day. People will be wearing certain items of clothing that just are forcing their body to do something it doesn't. And so at that point, you might think that exercise could be something to help you, right? It's entirely false. The body just always needs to only be in its only working position, because you'll see it. I mean, it doesn't matter as far as the human being has changed, because that has not happened. It's not about a time period for those reasons, but it's about, again, the man-made modern world, as I discussed, right? There's people who still live in parts of the world, and I think, you know, the percentage of the world that is still this way is very shocking to those of us who do live in first world man-made America. But there's so many people across the globe that we have that still just live naturally, and that's the only way the body works. And so for them, they understand things like what I'm discussing here within this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And so what I mean is, it's so natural to have a lot of both rotations, internal rotation and external rotation. I mean, the body just has the rotations it's designed with. But if it's being inhibited and restricted from one of those, which is internal rotation, then the human being will be stuck into one of its rotations only. And it's not designed to have to work around things. The human body is designed to just operate as if there's no restriction to it. But then we wear clothing, right, to protect us, to keep us modest, to do the things that we discuss when I start phrasing things like that, right? I mean, we have the sun that can burn our skin. We have harsh temperatures. We have wind. We have things that can scratch us and things that, you know, can hurt the body in whatever ways that it could. And clothing is a buffer between the human body and the earth. And in a lot of our cases, the man-made world. But within that, we can't lose sight of the only way the human body operates, or else we're doing all these silly things that we are doing in 2025. And so, again, when I say stuff like this, like how I talk about how technology will change before we know it, and I don't mean to be in any way like predicting the future, but I think it will be really cool to look back at these episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast and see that, yes, I was discussing things that really are just what they are, as ideally we are always discussing things as. And it's like what I talk about with technology, how it will change before we know it. The man-made world and things, you know, like I'm discussing with diets and how silly that is, and mobility, stretching, all these things, you know, clothing designs that are just so weirdly positioned on the human body, shoes and how that is altering the feet and the rest of the body. All these things will change so much before we know it, back to a more natural way of having all those things, because like I was saying, people are being more aware now than they have been for decades, and it's just happening. So that's a good thing, and it's cool that In the Image Clothing Company got founded in 2024. September 23rd, 2024 is our official founding, and it's just a cool time period to have this company, because yeah, there's a lot of people across the globe that are really starting to have just more understandings of, whoa, we've been in such a weird state of existence for past decades, right? And we got into the whole technological age, and everybody's like having the potential to get so blinded by the only truth that there actually is, right? So people are getting a little bit far away from the only truth that actually exists. And, you know, I was and even am and always will be, to degrees, one of those people. Definitely, I'm not just saying other humans, but that's why I have In the Image Clothing Company, is to share truths like this. So it's really cool to see, because people are going to stop stretching all the time and stop going to the gym and stop taking all these weird supplements and, you know, trying to count out each gram of protein that they take and all these things, because people will just start eating naturally again. I didn't say just eating natural foods again, because eating naturally again, right? And we talk about the position that the body's in while it eats. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company, I think it's episode 17, titled Eating Truths. and I went over how the human body only will mesh the way that it does as far as the teeth are just things that squish food together so that it can be digested easier. And it's just a machine. It's just like taking a compactor of some kind and like chomp, chomp, clamping it together like a trash compactor. And if it's not tracking straight, it's not going to work. And so if you're not sitting or standing in a position where the body is going to be able to have its jaw mesh correct, then you're not going to be able to eat the only way that the body is actually designed to. And so sitting in these modern man-made chairs is that exactly, as far as a way that the body does not eat. And so it's very strange that we can be this out of touch. But the whole thing is the body's designed to work. And so we're wasting time as a society, whether it's me or Jenny or Jimbo, if we're going to the gym to try to do exercises, if we're trying to do all these weird things, the body just works, and it just does. It's designed to. So very strange, very silly. I'm going to transition a little bit. We might talk more about the human body in that kind of way within this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, but I'm going to get into, for at least a second or two, a few minutes probably, the gospel. And what I really want to focus on is the atonement of Jesus Christ, our living God, suffered for all of our sins and our pains and our afflictions are things that he felt. Every single one of us from the beginning to the end, he suffered everything that could be suffered. And he died for us. He took all our sins upon him when he lived a sinless life. And this is what I really want to say is our living God has a plan that from the very beginning and to the very end was and is designed to work. The plan of salvation. The plan that our children, well, yes, those as well, but the plan that us as children of our living God, our children are his children as well. We go through this earth. We go through this whole worldly thing that we do to follow the plan of our God, and it is designed to work. Repentance is designed to work. Having a perfect God to rely on is designed to work, and it does work. It works 1,000% of the time. I'm going to say 100% of the time because that's really how we measure those things, is from 0 to 100. So, yes, repentance works, and it does. I always talk about how we're sinful by nature human beings, but we have a plan, meaning we have a Savior, an almighty God who is perfect and has every ability to save us, to redeem us, to turn our lives around. And that's the only way that that happens, and it does, is through Jesus Christ. But that's the biggest thing to focus on is it's like with the human body, it only does what it does, but it's designed to do that very well for a full lifespan, unless we have our very specific situations that doesn't allow that to happen, which that's fine. But it doesn't do anything it doesn't do. And yeah. Repentance is designed to work. How it does, and it works. But we can't go about anything any other way besides the way that our God designed the plan. Right? I mean, you can't get your knee to hinge any way besides the only neutral that it has. Otherwise, there's many complications. You can't go through life deciding you'll choose what your own 10 commandments are, because that's opposing the only way that this life is designed to work, and there will be many complications. So, yes, if you are confused as to why your religion that you have chosen does not bring you actual lasting peace and joy, it's because Jesus Christ is the only true and living God. And I'm not here to start debates, but don't believe me. It's just the truth. And the reason I say it like that is because it's like how I can say so boldly, it's like how I can say so boldly, though, anything within the human body, like your feet do not work in any other position besides the way that we show to lay shoes. it's like that. It's out of encouragement, out of love, out of, hey, you want your body to work? We can tell you how it actually operates. Hey, you want your life to have some peace and lasting joy? I can tell you the only way that will happen, and it's through Jesus Christ. So things that are just designed to work, and any other way that you try to approach them, they will not, because we didn't design them. We didn't design our earth. We didn't design the journey that we personally have on it. We didn't design our bodies. And that's the big thing within In the Image Clothing Company. Well, I say that, but it's on both ends, right? I mean, we're centered around the gospel of Jesus Christ. The whole goal of our company, besides spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, is keyword allowing the body to work. And so, yeah, it only does what it does. And we have an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled "There Is Only One Way," and is similar to this episode in a lot of ways. Now, the body is designed to work. It's so silly. I think it's so beautiful because there are certain people that I'm sure that you can see looking around on the earth, and they are elderly, people who are like 70, 80 years old plus, and their bodies work better than a lot of these 15-year-old, 20, 25-year-old kids because they're not using a cell phone, right? They're not doing a physical function that the body just does not do. They understand, to at least a degree, and quite a higher one than the cases of people around here, how their body's actually designed to operate. And so it's just designed to work. It's designed to work. We have a perfect God who has a perfect plan that's just designed to work. But we only can have it work if we do it the way that he designed it. And so that's why I laugh so hard at people who try to have implants within their body to try to get it to look, especially cosmetically, a certain way. It's hilarious because then they'll just be in so much turmoil because they've tried to alter something that they've been given. It's a gift. It's something that only is designed to do what it's designed to do. Now, designed to work. I think it's really cool. There's certain people, and I'm sure that just about everybody has seen this. There's a lot of people who are just so naturally strong, right? Compared to somebody who goes to the gym, they are just strong. Somebody can be training in the gym 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 6 times a week, hours a day, and there can be another human being that comes along and is like many times even stronger than this person. And they don't do any kind of exercise or workout, but they just allow their body to function and they just do things with their body the way that's designed to work. And so it's kind of silly how just absolutely matrixy and illusion, it's just a show, this whole life. So, yes. Now, myself, and I talk about this, and I've mentioned this before within In the Image Clothing Company, but I'm very, very much physically stronger. Not that it's any kind of comparison or competition, doesn't matter, other than just allowing the body to do what it's designed to do now than I was back when I would work out and things, doing all this like stuff that I knew how to do so well out of what people would say. Like I was mentioning, all the ways of approaching what it means to do a workout. And yes, so like the body's not designed to run. I discuss this so often because the human body can totally run to catch something, totally run to get away from something, but again, naturally. And not naturally as in primitively, as in that's past, but again, what would happen if like we got invaded by another country, or we had some outbreak of a plague, or there was some kind of reason where there's no electricity in any kind of way out of nowhere, and we just had to live and we had to survive. What would you do? You'd have to catch food or get on the ground to actually do agriculture, to grow food. I mean, it's not a primitive way of thinking. It's just that it seems as though it is because we live in 2025 and especially first world, the United States of America. And we're very, very, very out of touch with the only thing that's actually still there. But we live in an illusion, bro. I don't want to lose people thinking that I have some opinion. I'm just discussing it as it is. It's just, I like to use words like that because that's really how it is. And people like to kind of like stay away from stuff like that. Don't say the word matrix or illusion, or don't tell me that I'm wrong when I know already that I am, but I don't want to believe it, There's only one truth. So it's Jesus Christ. Now, don't believe me, right? But the human body would just have to do what it has to do. There's no separation between what we would label as a primitive life and modern 2025, other than the things that we like place on top of it. Like we just set these buildings onto the earth and we like place these things here that will just leave and go back to the only natural that there actually is, the only truth that there actually is. And so the body is designed to do everything that it needs to do. We don't need to do all these weird things that we do in modern 2025. It seems like it because that's how the world is structured. But that's the key word, is the world. That's how the world is structured nowadays in 2025. But the earth is still what it is. You step outside of your city and things are just doing what they're doing without you determining it. In a city, if people don't continue to try to upkeep the city as what they've created it to be, it doesn't exist anymore. It goes back to nature. And that's just how it is, right? And so, again, I'm not saying stuff that's anything different than just the only truth that there is, but I like to use words that kind of, not to trigger people, but that kind of trigger those like, whoa, what are you saying? You're stepping out of what I believe in. Stepping out of what? Your television room into nature, right? I mean, it's just the only truth that actually exists. So, the body's designed to work, and that's the whole thing. Is we're living in a society where we don't have to actually do anything. People think they're accomplishing so much because they're going to a job and they're putting in 8 to 10 hours of work. And sure, you're doing a lot, but you're doing too much. That doesn't matter. I mean, sure, you can try to tell me how hard you worked, and I will agree because you're just physically in turmoil. But you didn't do stuff that's actually, I just don't want to offend people that are really trying to like support themselves or their loved ones or something, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I mean is like a lot of these jobs, right? Because the whole thing is, what do you actually need? Well, you need love, you need food, you need shelter, you need clothing that protects your body, and there you go. You need to keep your body hydrated and at a pretty stable temperature, right? I mean, like simple things, and there you go. You're a human being and you're living a very fulfilled life. And so people will go do things that the human being itself is not designed in any way to do. These, man-made jobs inside these industries, inside these cities that, again, don't actually exist. They'll just go back to nature once nobody's, like, upkeeping them. And then they'll think they've done so much work, but really what they've done is just damaged their body, making it do something it doesn't. It's not designed to. The human being isn't designed to work inside of an office. Offices didn't even exist until they did, right? I mean, yes. So, the body's designed to work. The point is, those things that we just have to have, there's only, a certain amount of ways you can get food. It either comes from an animal or it comes from the ground. You're either going to grow it out of the earth or you're going to kill it because it ate something else that grew out of the earth. But within the modern society, that's what I mean. You go work inside of a grocery store and you're bent over at a counter height all day. I mean, I was a dairy manager in a grocery store, right? I was a front-end supervisor of a grocery store for a year and a half. I worked in a produce department of the grocery store. I mean, I've done things like that. I'm just talking about only grocery stores as of right now because that was my first approach to what I was saying here as far as a job. I've had many, many jobs in many different ways of what a quote unquote job is. I mean, I'm mocking my own past work as well. I'm not like condemning other people, right? I'm just saying that the world, the man-made world, is absurd. And I was taking part in it, and I do, and I will, because to degrees we have to, kind of. That's a whole discussion in itself, but. Well, the point is, it's been prophesied about that the world will just look this way, right? And so it just is what it is, and we're not going to actually change it. We're just one person, even though one man can change the world, and he did, but he was much more than a man. So, our living God, Jesus Christ. Now, here's the thing. When we have like a grocery store, you know, and you think that food is what it is because of what you're seeing within the grocery store. No. And I've talked about this within the episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Vegetarianism. Holy cow. I discussed that, where some human beings don't even actually know what food is. You know, I talked about how some people don't get that steak is an actual cow. They think it's steak, like that word, and this thing in a package. It's that kind of thing. You know, food will only ever come from where it actually comes from, if it's going to actually benefit the human body. If we're trying to cook up things in a factory to call it food, which is what we're doing to degrees nowadays, but if it got to a point where that was like pretty much all that we were like having left, at least in modern like man-made worldly societies, then the human being just wouldn't exist. We would be dying left and right because the human body only will be sustained by natural foods. And so that's the whole point, is no matter what, the body's designed to do what it has to do to be a human being, and it has to have food. And you're only going to get food by hunting an animal or by growing it out of the ground. And those two things can only work the ways that that's going to happen. I mean, you have to have pretty specific conditions for plants to grow. You have to have a pretty specific environment and diet for that animal for it to survive long enough to grow large enough to where you can actually get enough meat from it to sustain yourself. So all these things are just what they are. They're just designed to be what they're designed to be. Again, our God has a plan that is designed to work. And we just get in the middle of it, right? I mean, you think about nature, and I talk about this often, where there's no debate or dispute or side of politics you can take, or any kind of opinion or lifestyle choice or group you can assign yourself to where you can dispute that the rate that animals are going extinct is increasingly more and more commonly. Animals are just not existent anymore, species of them, because of human beings. And that's something that nobody could ever possibly dispute, just because it's the case. You can see it for yourself, however you want to try to study it. And the reason I say that like that is because us human beings, we just get in the way when we're trying to do things our way, because things are only designed to work the way they're designed to work. We didn't design them. You know, I mean, you can't, if people don't believe that there's a higher power out there, you tell them to like create a flower for you out of whatever they're going to do it out of, without letting it do it the way that it's naturally working, the way that our God is doing it, because he designed the flower. He designed the human being. I mean, we like to think that we created our children because, like, you know, in ways we did certain things that allowed that to happen, but you didn't cause that child to have a heart and to beat and to have a nervous system, and you didn't wire its body in the way that it's now operating, and you didn't like put it together out of things that you have created, right? Our God designed everything, and it only is designed to work how it works. So it's all one grand design, right? I mean, you hear like that kind of phrasing. But the big thing is we just get in the way of things because we're human beings and we're placed here. I mean, this within Genesis, the first book of the Bible, that's what it talks about, is human beings are placed on this earth to govern it. To govern, like, well, I mean, yeah, to a degree. Our God is above everything, but the human beings were placed here. I mean, Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden to work the garden, right? To create the garden to be what it is, to because when Eve was created, it words it as Adam needed a helpmeet. He needed somebody to help him with the garden, right? So we're here to like govern things. We were given animals to use them in the ways that we need them. We were given all the minerals and the plants and the resources that we have to be able to be human beings, to be able to go through this journey that we have. But it all still only does what it does, and we have to let it do its design, including our own fleshly beings. So all these things are just designed to be what they are. But again, we're in this, especially the technological age that we've had within the past few decades. A lot of people are just thinking they can create whatever they want, because you make a computer and it's like, wow, a human being did this. That's amazing. Some people are saying, I don't think so. I think it's terrible. Well, times and places, right? I mean, it is that paradox, the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. Because I'm using a piece of technology to film this, to record this audio, and I discuss those kind of things. And in a lot of ways, they're great. But in a lot of ways, we'd be better without them, meaning just any piece of technology. So it's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ, right? Times and places, things on both ends can be exactly correct, but entirely opposing at the same time. It's weird. But yeah, with the human body, that's huge, man. We just have to know how our own bodies work. Because the thing is, we don't decide to, we're not intentionally, I guess, as most humans, deciding to go through life with one of our shoulders higher than the other. But we didn't design, most all of us didn't design the clothing that we're wearing. And so things like this dreaded collar seam that I talk about within t-shirts that places one of your shoulders higher than the other, we didn't decide for that to happen. And so there's a lot of stuff that's happening that is just changing our design, meaning the design of our bodies that we didn't design, and we don't even know about it, right? And so that's why In The Image Clothing Company is so beautiful, because we're just giving truth that is just eternal. And we need to, meaning we have every right to, and all it will do is help us. And it's something that is so shocking that we're allowed to not even know. We do need to know how our own bodies work, and we need to know how they're designed, because they are designed to work. I talk often about how jeans are just so damaging, but people have been wearing jeans for a long time. Oh man, it's so weird. There's so many things like that within the things that human beings do nowadays that are so damaging. The body's just designed to work. It's designed to. I mean, when you think about the things that people were building in the past, yeah, this will be a really good thing to say within this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. In the past, people created large structures with no technology, no power tools, and nothing anywhere near like what we have nowadays in modern 2025. If we're talking about thousands of years back and these big structures that they created. Now in modern 2025, sure, you can sit within a crane and move thousands and thousands of pounds of something, but you're actually doing something your own physical flesh doesn't do. The seat within the crane cab that your body is sitting into is putting your body into a position where parts of it are turned off. Parts of the musculature of the body aren't even activated. And it's changing the way that the skeletal system is connecting, as I'm discussing, toward the start of this episode here. And so, and then you're reaching to pull on these levers and things in positions that your body doesn't actually do. Because in order to reach, you need the rest of your body to stabilize, for your arm to be able to reach, starting clear from your feet. And if you're sitting in a chair, cutting off your hamstrings in the cab of a crane. And so now your lower body is entirely deactivated. Your upper body is trying to just operate at all as far as breathing, because you have to elevate your shoulders to expand your rib cage and get those scapulas out of the way. And then you're reaching forward when your shoulders connect behind your body, and there's no stabilization happening to combat that. And now you're moving levers. So sure, the human being can cause something to happen, but it's not the human being that's doing that. That's what I mean. We don't really actually get better as time goes on. We can do more man-made things, but again, every building we create will fall. And eventually, right? I mean, it could stand for quite a long time. There's things from a long time ago that have still been standing, but everything will fall that we do create. And that's why I don't know how to really phrase that exactly, because we're not creating things. We're just putting things together, like building blocks as human beings. So The point is, though, that now that crane operator, sure, you say, we have, I'm not even going to word it, it's just so absurd, but people think that we have come farther as a society because we can now build buildings that are massive, huge skyscrapers, but the human being doesn't even operate, and it's the thing that's going to take advantage of these things, but it's only designed to do what it does, and it's designed to work. It's not designed to play a video game. And what I mean by that is that's essentially what you're doing sitting in the cab of a crane. You're pulling these levers like you're sitting there staring at a screen and like operating this little joystick. And so now that person will get off their shift as the crane operator and they'll go home and their body cannot even work. But in the past, people would be doing hard physical labor and their bodies would still operate really well because it's like that truck sitting outside in the cold of Utah. If it's not working, like the human being that thinks they're doing so much work, and yeah, you're accomplishing the task that you're trying to do, and in many ways that could be very beneficial, but as far as your physical fleshly being, it is not working. It's actually entirely turned off, sitting there just moving some joysticks on your like life-sized video game of your crane. Do you see what I'm saying? And so in the past, though, like I was starting to mention, people would be out there doing manual physical labor all day, but they'd be working their body through its ranges of motion and keeping the muscles activated and keeping the joints mobile and working through their ranges of motion, right? I mean, there's no range of motion happening within the driver's seat of a crane. Even though you're doing physically large things, you're not really doing much of anything as far as your own physical flesh. You're moving your shoulders, but only in ways that don't actually work, right? The rest of your body is just couch potato. It's so strange. I mean, this is the case. So the body's designed to work, but it's designed to only do the things that it does. And it does those very well if we're allowing it to. And if you're in a state of chronic patterning because of these things that we do discuss, then you can get out of them, out of these patternings. But we have to release these scar tissue and things. Because like sitting in that crane seat, for example, and doing this, if you're watching in visual, if you're just listening in audio only, I'm just like moving my hands back and forth like as if I'm operating joysticks, right? Because that's what you do in a crane. You move your feet a little bit and there you go. And you're moving this huge piece of machinery, but you personally, physically aren't really doing anything because you can operate that thing remotely, right? And you can sit there and use smaller joysticks on a little thing in your hand that doesn't actually fit in your hand. So now you're not using your hand in the only way that your hand is designed to work. But you're operating a huge crane and you're doing all this work, quote unquote, right? Very strange. It's a paradox because, yeah, you're accomplishing things, but you're not really actually working, as in you physically, your being. It's so strange how all this can even happen. It's just what it is. So it's really weird. This is the illusion I'm talking about. This is the matrix of the world. And it just is what it is. There's no opinion that I'm stating here at all within any of this. This is just what it is. And always will just be able to be seen this way if you can see it for as it is. So, it's very strange. Now, yes, weird. I think that's enough explanation of that. It's so absurd. Now, now. Yeah, I think it's just, it hits me. It's like, yeah, this is crazy. I mean, this is what it is. Again, I can sit here and talk about all I want opinion-wise, but none of that was an opinion at all. I mean, that's just what it is. We're so out of touch, man. The body is designed to work, and so if yours does not, look at your life and say, hey, am I doing a movement that my body actually should? Or am I trying to get it to do something that just won't actually happen? Maybe I can force it through and like cause it to occur, but then there's a lot of repercussion, right? The body's designed to work how it's designed to work. So that's beautiful. I think I'm going to cut it right there. I'm so content with that. I love that so much. That was so, to me personally, that was such a gift, being able to put all that into words the way that it did get worded throughout this. I love that. All right, cool. So with that being said, right, that's why I always say, in the Image Clothing Company clothing, when it's available, you can purchase it if you'd like. No obligation by any means, no need to, other than it will do what we say it will do. Stay centered, fit correct, and allow the body to work. That's exactly what I'm saying. The body only does what it does, as I've said since the very founding. That's what In The Image Clothing Company is, right? And so our clothing will just be shaped the way that the body is designed to work. And so just as I always mention, never purchase In The Image Clothing Company clothing with the intent to get it oversized. You will damage your body. Clothing has to fit, or else the body can't do the only thing it's designed to do. Now, shoot, I love that. I mean, because I could sit and talk about this type of stuff and just like give explanations and like ways of sharing, like the crane example, and in much smaller ways and things we're doing in our everyday lives that we just don't realize. These, our nightly routines, our routines waking up, how we sleep, how we eat, how we walk and sit. And like I said, the human being doesn't actually sit within a vehicle the way that our cars are structured. But workouts, running, all these things. But that is what In The Image Clothing Company is just sharing the truth of how the body's actually designed to work. No opinion of mine. I'm not trying to tell you something that I believe or think. I don't believe anything about this stuff. But just universal truths that always will be what they are. So thank you. I'm going to cut it, like I said, right there. Check out the other two sides of the company if you'd like to. They're really great. That's me saying that. I mean, you don't have to believe that, but information you can definitely benefit from no matter who you are. Again, universal truths, eternal truths, everything centered on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there we go. So, such a gift. It's unreal. It's amazing. Okay. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it hits. It's fun for me to sit here and just speak like this and discuss things like this, because some people just are in a place in their life where they're not able to see this stuff. But all you have to do is be able to put aside your opinions and your beliefs, and there it is, the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ, right in front of all of us. But we can potentially get blinded from it. I have been before. Yeah, it just happens. But it's amazing. It's not what a lot of people think it is, just this life in general. And it always is just what it is. No matter how much technology we have, no matter what, it just is what it is. There's this underlying truth, and that is our God himself. And our surface level things come and go, but everything's just designed to be what it is, and it's only that. We place our illusions and our matrix type of lifestyle living in our societies and our man-made things on top of the truth, but it doesn't go away. We can just choose to place a lot of importance on things that are not. So, like I said, my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. This is episode 55 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, titled Designed to Work. Today is the 8th of February, 2025. Thank you.